Hey, my name is Aeyza, and for my ISU novel, I chose The Ballroom by Anna Hope. And I only chose this book because I read Anna Hope's other book, which was named Wake, and I really enjoyed reading that book, so I thought I should read this book as well since she only has two. So to start off, I'll talk a little bit about the history of the ballroom, and I think if you read a book that's based on something real, you should really learn the backstory of it first, and I think that makes it more interesting to read. In 1909, an Irishman named John Malarkey was admitted to an asylum in the West Riding of Yorkshire, and his notes stated that he was a very depressed man who was very hardworking, and he was very worried about his work. And like other people in the asylum, he never left, and so he died in 1918, so he lived there for about like 9 years or so. And then a century later, his great-great-granddaughter, Anna Hope, who is the author of this book, decided to write a novel inspired by her ancestor in the asylum in which he lived and died in. So The Ballroom is a historical fiction, and Anna describes her characters in it as wholly fictional. So this is a love story between two people, one named Ella Faye and one named John Mulligan, who, despite being in the most inhospitable environment, survive with the help of each other. The story takes place in Sharston Asylum, a place where people who are mentally disabled are kept, and because of some circumstances, Ella and John both end up there. Ella gets stuck there because she used to work at the mill and she broke a window there, but she knows that she's not crazy for being in an asylum for breaking a window, where on the other side, John is kept there because he's depressed about his dead daughter and his wife who had left him. Talking about the asylum again, so in there, the men and women are kept separately by high walls, and they only meet on Fridays in a place called the Ballroom, and that's only if they have behaved well. So every week people come in and they see who has been well, who's eaten well, who's treated well, who behaved well, and if they have, then they get to go to the ballroom. Other than Ella and John, there's a third character whose name is Dr. Fuller, and he is also known as Charles. He's a musician and a doctor at the asylum, and he's obsessed with the idea that patients should not be sterilized and that their only treatment should be their love for music. But after some situations, he comes to this point where sterilization should be allowed so that people don't have kids, so they don't pass on bad genes, so that their kids don't go all crazy.
What?
So talking about the ballroom again, how they meet every Friday. So when John and Ella meet the first time, John knows how the women are kept, how they're not allowed to go outside, they're not, whereas the boys are. So he decides that he's gonna write letters to Ella every week and give them to her whenever they meet. And so when they start writing to each other, things get better for the both of them in the asylum. And despite Ella not being able to read, she gets her friend Clem, who is also a part of the asylum, to read them for her. And John has no idea about that. The turning point of the book is when one of the two, Ella or John, are given the unexpected opportunity to leave Sharston forever. It's their choice if they want one of them to have freedom, or do they both want to be stuck in there forever together. Aside from plot and characters, Anna strengthens her novel by using a lot of rhetorical devices and narrative structure. The way she describes people, places, and things, it's very a pleasure to read. Like, she puts this image in your head at just a one-time reading. Like, you don't have to read it over and over again for you to understand. And I've seen that in her other books as well. She writes everything in a lot of detail. Also, while I was reading the book, I noticed a lot of other things, one in which was feminism theory. I thought that was a big part in the book. It was throughout all of it. As I said in the beginning, that the women and men were separated by high, thick walls. They both had different things to do on both sides, although they weren't both pleasant, but the men got to go outside and they got to see the grass, they got to see the green grass, they got to see the blue sky, whereas the women were trapped in squared boxes and bared windows doing laundry. Like, how can you just do laundry every single day of your life? Like,
I do it for a day in a week, and I wish I didn't even have to do that. Like, that's insane.
And if they tried to run away, they would bring them back to a different ward where they would be treated even worse than they already are being treated. Another thing I noticed, aside from feminism, was dichotomy in Charles' character, who's the one who's also named Dr. Phil, and he's a musician and doctor. At the beginning, how I said he's very helpful to the patients and he's really kind, but then as the novel goes on, he kind of branches off and goes all crazy and mad, and I know that I really enjoyed reading that. I was a little mad at first because I was so into the good side of him, because not everyone at the asylum was so positive and stuff, but he was, and then when he took a turn, I'm like, what? But I think it's nicer to read because it makes it more interesting, and then you kind of go more into it because you want to know how he turned the way he did. The thing I really liked about this book was that there were three different perspectives: John, Ella, and Charles. Despite having only one story, it was nice to know three different perspectives on the same situation, and I think it was interesting that way too because all three of them had different ideas and thinkings. Also, like I mentioned, that the Asylum was not a place of happiness, and a lot of people were depressed and not really mentally stable. Ballroom was a great thing to have because that's where people would go every week, where they would forget about where they were, where their problems were, and they would just have fun. They would dance, enjoy the music, and just meet new people. And to end off, I just want to say that I think you should give this book a read. It's a pack of drama and romance, and it's definitely worth your time. Anyways, thank you for listening. Bye.